So today we have a question and answer video. We're going to answer some questions from people that have contributed information or sent questions into our YouTube channel. And several people contributed both video and pictures and of their projects. And so this should be an interesting little discussion. We always try to include a couple of funny stories, but most of all some useful information that's worth sharing, that might save you some time, some money, some aggravation. And of course, to try to make it a friendly, non-political thing. I don't want to get into any discussions about whose bike is the fastest or who has the most money or whatever. It's just pointless. And at this point in my life, I want to have fun. And when I'm done, I want to have some more fun. So welcome to Ask Wendy question and answer videos, and we have some good stuff to share today. Now, I always like to start off with something really positive. Now, Scott has been working on his RD400 for a long time. I've been getting pictures of it in piecemeal. I've saved them all on my computer. I'm going to try to show them at the end of this little segment. But I always like to include a small story. Well, Dale has that RZ. Carl has an RZ. And an RZ is a really nice collector. Peabody had one. And I never had one. To be honest, I never had one. Luciano had one. And it's one of the bikes that if I do add another bike to my collection at some point in time, or if all of a sudden I go out one day and the garage is twice as big, maybe I'll have one. But anyway, before we even go anywhere, I want to share some of these pictures because I love when I start interacting with somebody over the internet, and what happens is I can share pictures with them, they share pictures with me, we share the story. Most of the experience is pretty similar. But here's what happens. It's always, and you always have to keep this in mind, information is like money. If you don't spend it, you leave it in your pocket. But if you know things that, even if you don't have to know them, it's better to know them than not know them. Now, I know on an RZ there's some tricky things that putting the motor back together. Luciano has told me that some things are a little awkward and hard to do and whatever. But Scott is obviously a very experienced mechanic. And the good news is we're hoping to link up with him pretty soon out at Perry's. He only lives a little north of Perry, so maybe a little north is 4 hours. I don't know. But these are the pictures of Scott's RZ during the assembly. He sent me many emails and pictures, but I'm going to try to condense it down into something for the two-stroke lovers, the RZ lovers of the world. This is a great way to start a video with some positive pictures. And this is what Scott sent. This is some of the equipment that he used. Now you can tell it looks like he's very organized mechanic, and he's got things under control here. This is the oil pump that has 30 separate parts, cleaned, rebuilt, got a rebuilt kit. And this is the kind of thing that before you go and pull an oil pump apart, maybe you want to look at that and see, is this within your skill level? Well, I don't know. And he gave a long thing, and it's a little too long to put on this video, about how to test the oil pump, get it flowing oil before you put it back in the engine. And I have done the similar thing to my RD, I don't know, many years ago. Luciano helped me. And here's the bores, and it looks like every step of this, he's got an organized workshop. He mentioned that the head gasket, the original OEM head gasket, $65 and a must if you're going to do this kind of work. He's got the spools clean. These go in the exhaust port and vary the exhaust timing. Look how nice and clean. This looks like a beautiful rebuild, obviously. This, when I seized up my RD, it was not this nice and clean. The leak test, the tools for the leak test, make sure it has no leaks anywhere. And this is somebody that really knows what they're doing, and this is really nice. And a little plate with when he rebuilt it, he engraved it there. That's a nice little touch. And of course, the thing we all look forward to, the whole bike assembled and ready to go out on a ride with the A-team and tackle those back roads with the throttle wide open. And here's another thing I love about the modern world, the world that we can just share these things electronically. Wonderful. Dallas and I have been friends for many years. We've shared a lot of stuff. Dallas's wife Nancy, in fact, gave me the heat snakes to work on some of the paint issues that I have, and they work great, by the way. And I use them all the time, and so does my daughter. He sent me some pictures of where he rides in California, right in the Sacramento area, and his friend, and I'll share those pictures here now. But one of the things that's special is he's watched the videos for many years, And he also owned a small plane. And see, what happens is as you start to get to know somebody, you find out they did this, they did that, he had this, he had that. And it's wonderful that the internet is such a wonderful thing that we can do that back and forth thing. And I can have friends basically, if you're honest about it, all over the world, Australia, Romania, and California, everywhere. And the internet is the thing that makes that possible. So my skills with computers are limited unless it comes to video editing. And if we had somebody comment that they're limited on my editing even in video, but he never replied to what should I do. So I don't know. But Dallas, here's a couple of pictures that Dallas sent of riding in his area. Now, because you're watching a video, maybe you're in North Jersey, maybe you're in Romania, whatever. But several people I've gotten them to share things, and so we get a little tour all over the world. And the best part of all, it's fun and it's free. So here's some pictures Dallas shared. Dallas, the one in the foreground here, I think, but I'm not sure that's his brother, or it's his brother or his friend. I might have my notes. Remember, I have pads and notes everywhere here. And look at the scenery here. Boy, that looks like the view from the top of Bear Mountain, only in California. I'm sure they get to ride more warmer days than we do here. But he looks pretty well bundled up here. And that's his bike that he affectionately calls Big Red. It's an 83. Now look, it has different wheels. It's got other modifications that he's made, a little luggage rack. He does a lot, and he's got two bikes, one Gold Wing and that bike. So he does a lot of long distance rides. Look at the snow here, and it looks like the roads are pretty clean. Now, because it's California, I'm going to take a wild guess. Maybe they don't salt the roads like we do. Maybe that's just only something from our area of the country. But anyway, and the other bike here looks like a touring bike. I can't really tell. It looks like a Triumph, but I'm not sure. Again, when I take notes on these things, I really have so many notes that sometimes I lose track of which is which. I got to be a little more careful about that in the future. Yeah, that looks like a Triumph Rocket. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. When Vince bought the Valkyrie, I thought it was a Harley, so shows you what I know. Anyway, this looks like a beautiful area at Dallas, and it looks like just the perfect time of year. You can wear your full leathers, be nice and cool, no sun beating down. Oh, and Big Red. Boy, Big Red is absolutely the twin brother of my Big Gold or whatever, Big Tan, whatever we're going to call him. Great bikes. Now, another cool thing about, and I just love this, again, this is turning into an internet video, but it's really an information video because of the internet we can exchange information. And a good example of something worth sharing, I got ripped off by a place in Canada on some coils. And a total rip-off, a total rip-off. And I passed that information on my channel. I'm not going to pass it on again and again and again. I don't want to turn it into a negative video. But what's good, if you get ripped off by somebody, spread it around. Don't let them just keep getting away with it. And if you have a good experience, I've had a good experience with the people that sold me the windshields in China for 26 bucks. I passed that information on. It's good to pass information on that is useful. Now, this is the kind of thing, I do love this. A fellow named Frank, he's flying one of the planes that I designed in my model airplane career, a plane called the Cardinal. And how can you make this up? He had a GS 1100, blue and white with the square headlight. I almost can't believe this. Had a 72 Chevelle. Well, when I got to correspond with him, I found out, I had a Chevy too with the big engine of 327, 350. We not only have the models, we have the cars. That's just ridiculous. So, and it's all because of the internet and because people in this day and age are very comfortable sharing things. So we have a lot in common, and I don't know how to explain that in any simple way, that every time I run into somebody, it seems like they either did this or they either did that, and I think that's a very nice thing. Now, a guy named Bob, he commented on Brodak Dope. Brodak Dope is, for people that don't know, is model airplane paint. It's butyrate dope that's been developed from full-scale aviation to a modeling formula. I was part of that development program for the late John Brodak, and it has, for all purposes, been very, very successful. So what he said,
This really makes sense to me. And I thought this was funny. He said it held up well on my RD400. Well, if you go back to the video of me painting the RD, I used Brodak dope. There was a simple reason. I had a lot of it. And I had the color yellow. I mixed several colors, cub yellow and whatever. And he's right. It has held up well. That was about 10 years ago. And that bike has, I put over 10,000 miles on it. And they've not been easy miles. There's been rides when it's salt on the road and raining and whatever, and it's been out in the sun. That paint held up very, very well.
Now it's been about 10 years since I painted this bike and the wheels, and every part of it, it's amazing to me, it's held up well. It has really stood the test of time. Usually stuff on two-strokes usually gets vibration, cracks, and there's other things. And it's been out in the sun a lot. Nothing's faded. Nothing is deteriorated terribly on it. All the engine polishing I did seems to have stood the test of time. And the biggest thing of all, the bike still runs just perfect. And it's just, you jump on a bike and all of a sudden you're 18 years old again, and young girls are waving to you and throwing you bouquets of flowers. It couldn't be a lot more fun than this bike.
Now, talking about information, and this is, I think, super good information. My good friend Ray in Florida, who has my original race bike, the RD350, he shared some information that only a few people that ever watched the video can use, but keep it in mind. This is the kind of thing that's information worth sharing. He has a friend that's a professional mechanic who works on bikes. He worked on a fella's, the guy bought a bike that, I've taken notes so I don't get this story wrong. He bought a 2007 R1 that had a dead battery and whatnot, and never started the engine, but he got it very inexpensively, of course. When they got to the mechanic and put a battery in and then tried to start it, motor didn't even turn. So when they took it apart, they found that it's a common thing that happened to that year bike, that the magnets on the stator came loose and went into the engine. Now, I don't know at what years this covers, but it does cover 2007. And there is a kit. Yamaha has a recall kit so that you can take care of that if you have an 07 before it happens to you. And it's relatively simple to install that kit. But once you don't install it, you're going to be out a lot of money. Or in this case, the guy's got to replace the whole engine. So to me, that's useful information.
Now, speaking of useful information worth sharing, if you have an RD or a RZ, I guess is very similar, and you want to replace the carburetors, exact replacement carburetor is no longer available, of course, but Mikuni sells replacement carburetors. They're not exactly the same. But when you talk to Mikuni, and you buy Mikuni carbs, even though the internals are exactly the same, they're not a bolt-on plug-and-play fit. There's a lot of drilling. There's some holes you have to drill for the oil lines. There's some, and if I remember right, the throttle slides don't interchange. You have to make a clip to attach the cable or use one from another carburetor, and on and on and on and on. But in the end, if you know about all this ahead of time before you start the job, and that's why I made this separate dedicated video of how to convert an RD400 to modern carburation. Because if you want the bike to run right, and you can't buy these old carbs, any you buy are going to be just as old unless you get them from Sudco, know ahead of time what you're involved in.
Now, this is one of the questions I never feel comfortable answering, because I only like to answer questions that I have first-hand knowledge of. I don't like to answer things and say, well, do this and do that, and I've never done it. I try not to do that, but I do like to pass on information like the information from Ray. But a fellow named Alexander sent me a beautiful email, and he's, I guess, contemplating buying an 800 VFR Honda. And did I ever ride one, and did I like it? What do I think? And now, I do have knowledge of it because the late Bob Navola had two of them. He had a modern one, and one was a few years old. I worked on both of them. We put kickstands on, changed tires, wheels, whatever. And because he had handicapped controls, remember Bob only had one arm, one hand, it was impossible for me to test ride the bike. So this, I really don't have first-hand information. But what I do have is I rode with Bob countless times, and he loved the bike. The bike was, except for an electrical issue on the older one that they used to fry the battery, I think the bike was dead reliable, and it sounded great, it ran great. So my feeling is always, if I don't know anything really, really negative here, that I didn't see anything negative in the years that Bob and I rode together, and he rode with the A-Team. And we spent many, many days at his shop, which was his beautiful garage that he had in Nyack. So all I can pass on, and it's reasonable, is that Bob did love it. And I think most people that have them, I think Dale has one too. But I'm not sure. I'm not absolutely sure. And again, when I'm not absolutely sure, I don't really like to go out on a limb. Now, here's a good one. The guy's handles, I love it. Stuck in the 80s. Well, stuck in the 80s. I'm stuck in the 80s. I'm stuck in the 40s, for crying out loud. Anyway, he liked the 888 panels, and he made a nice compliment thing, and he said they're a labor of love. Well, the 888 panels were a labor of love. And I'm not sure the amount of work Joe and I both put into that, and he did the scouting around and getting the stuff and from Australia, and decals and parts and special paint. That was a monumental job, and I'm glad I have it out on a video for anybody that needs that kind of information. That's good information to share. And I never try to keep a secret, because I'm not doing this to make a living, so I don't need to keep that secret thing so I can do it and nobody else can. I'm not driven by that. So there's so many cool things in the world. Now, Stefan in Romania, he did his first track day this year. He sent me a video. I shared the video with the A-Team, the people on my mailing list. But I want to share some pictures. He had a professional photographer come and take pictures. Well, I always would love to do that, and we have professional photographers. Joe Roselli is about as professional as it gets. And we've always talked about doing something like that, finding some turn where there's no traffic and shooting some pictures, or at a track day, because the problem is I don't do track days anymore. And he's got Michelin powered GPS on the bike, and he said, I looked at the video, and the video was pretty cool. Now, he attaches the camera to his helmet, so what happens as you're leaning into corners, it's way more accented there. I use the chest mount. It kind of stabilizes the camera, but you can still see the fact that you're leaning. But I love the video, and I love the pictures, and I'm going to share them. I'm going to share them right now. They're worth sharing, and Stefan, thank you so much. He's in Romania. The name of the track is Transylvania, and it's a new track. It was done, I think he said, in 2018. Wow, do I like that. Now, how else without the internet and without people sharing things could I ever go see what it's like to ride the track in Transylvania on a Triumph Triple? Anyway, and for these pictures, thank you, Stefan.
Now, these are the photos from Transylvania, the racetrack, and this is Stefan on his Triumph Triple. And if you look real close, it doesn't look a whole lot different than any of the racetracks that we go to. And it looks like they have a guardrail there. Of course, they run cars here too, so I'm not sure about that guardrail, though. I don't know. But anyway, the thing I noticed about it that may be different, I watched the whole video. I didn't see a lot of corner workers, but maybe they do have them and they're just hiding behind that guardrail or something. Now, the video he sent really was great, because I got the feeling I was riding the track, and that was really cool. And I hope we eventually we can share some video with him that he'll be feeling like he's riding with us. In fact, we're going to do it on one of our rides upcoming. I'm going to try to get more video of our rides totally unedited, so you can get a feel for how that is to just come along for the ride. And thank you, Stefan, for sharing.
Now, we had a discussion up by Perry's about lowering the forks, which changes the fork angle, and all of the things that complement that. And we had a discussion between about 6 or 8 people, all of which are pretty accomplished modelers. They all agreed on one thing, that absolutely when you lower the forks, you change the rake and trail. That goes without saying. There's really no counterpoint to that. But somebody mentioned another thing that I remember experiencing this. And I thought, wow, I could include this information on the video. There was a time when Rob, and Rob was the original owner of the Black Ninja, we were partners on it, but Rob said, because we were riding with Chris at the time and other people who all had a 180 back tire on their bike, And he said, oh, look at me, I got only a 160 back tire. Can we put a 180 on a bike? And I said, we took a little eyeball measurement. I said, sure, we'll just buy a 180, a Michelin 2, put it on the bike. Well, it's not a lot different. It is, we're not talking about 6 inches. It's probably less than an inch different, but it kicks the back of the bike up, which guess what? Same thing as lowering the forks. Kicking the back of the bike up is the same as lowering the forks. And as soon as he rode the bike, he said, oh, it seems like it wants to fall in on when you turn the corner. And I rode the bike, and I said he was riding it almost exclusively then. And I said, wow, you know what? This is not a good thing. This was not a great choice of things for that bike. Now, because you can change it, if the forks were already lowered, you could raise them. But we were already as high as they could go at that time. So, I don't, that's one of the things I don't know about. That you've got to kind of think it through before you do it. But I do know that bikes like a Ducati Davio that has a big giant tire, they account for that when they design the bike. But when you change it, and you change it either way, if you raise the back, lower the front, there's what actually should happen is the factory, of course, they take this all into account. But if you want a bike with a bigger back tire, you probably should buy a bike with a bigger back tire. And I always say, and this is a Luciano said this, and it's so true. When guys years ago would buy a bike, and you'd buy like my GS, you could hop up the engine and do all kind of things and make more power. But modern bikes, Scott sent me a thing with all these links that how you could hop up an MT-09. Who the hell would want to hop up an MT-09? It's perfect the way it is. So, and I know the factory, you change the muffler, and it may sound loud, and it may dyno out at 1/3 of a horsepower more. But basically, the factory does a pretty good job of setting that all up. And when you have everything from the factory, and something goes wrong, it's easy to diagnose it and fix it. But anyway, these are just some thoughts that go flipping through my mind here. So, I don't know which ones of them. We got a lot of comments to hear. And I didn't want to leave anybody out. And I get a lot of comments like this, and I do enjoy them. Thank you, one and all. Dan, he just rode, his coworker had a GS just like mine. He rode it, and he loved it. I love to hear that people still appreciate these older bikes. There's still a passion some people have, Dale, for instance, for older equipment. Now, Scott's thing, I know with the RZ, I'm sure when he rides it, if we get to see it, we want to do a kind of a special little, I'll try to detail it out and make a special video. Because an RZ is a unique bike that I have a special place in my heart for. I would love to have one too, believe me. So, Gorgon sent me several, and I'm just going through these real quick. He loves the sound of the GPX Muzzy muffler. I do too, but it's still a little loud for riding up in that populated area. And again, the reason, if we were riding in Harriman Park, at one point in time, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, Harriman Park was very low traffic, very low law enforcement. It's not now. It's super high bicycles and people taking pictures, and 2 of my friends have been killed in the park. So I have a lot of bad memories of the park. So I try to ride the area where I ride on the area by Perry's, and what's different about it, I have to go through a lot of neighborhoods there in the course of getting a road here is nice, a road here, but in between there's houses. And I hate always having to be looking around and making sure I'm not going to be setting off a fire alarm or something. And actually with the quiet bikes, people wave to you. Now, a comment. Carl made a good comment. Carl, Michelle, and I were riding, and the ride is on the video channel. And Carl led the ride on all these back roads past farms and everything. And when we got all done with the ride, he made a comment. He says, it's wonderful riding with 3 people with quiet mufflers. You don't set off fire alarms. Your cows don't get diarrhea when you go by or whatever. And the biggest one, you don't get caught by somebody who never would even look up if you went by on a quiet bike. But it's all in the eye of the beholder. We know that. Richard, I got to admit, this was the best comment. He said he did not know Ferrari made bikes. Richard, it was fun doing that, but I have to tell you, Ferrari they did make motorcycles, but not that one. They did, if you look it up, they made a single cylinder bike, I think in the 50s, I'm not sure. But between Luciano and I scamming people and Pokey and telling everybody it's a real Ferrari, that was just for fun. Because when you get old, fun is all you want. Anyway, Richard, I hope I didn't embarrass you or whatever.
So Richard, I really did have two Ferrari bikes that were not real Ferraris, they were Yamahas, but we had more fun, and all my friends would enjoy scamming guys with real Ferrari cars. It was just for fun. But think about it, that's the whole reason for riding motorcycles, to just have some good fun.
Rob Roy in Australia, he was watching me change tires, and he said, boy, oh boy, he's got a tire changer called an Olmax from Poland. And I would like to have one, to be honest. But you know what? I got no room to put the damn thing. And if I had more room, I'd buy another motorcycle. I wouldn't go into engine changing equipment or anything. So, and D. Handman had a new GS, bought new, loved the video, and what happened is, and this is so important, he watched the video, and it brought back a flood of memories and a smile to his face. And that's what we like our channel to be. Fun, non-political, and share some stories, because basically we all have the same stories.
Now, I know every person that has ever had a long association with motorcycling or even model planes, you have memories of things you've done, adventures, you've worked with other people, and formed partnerships to try to do things. And certainly Glenn was one of the big parts of the A-team at one time. He was the primary member here working on his Ducati. Just some of the memories we've had with the A-team, and especially with Glenn. And just like that, another Ducati bites the dust. So today we got the chain on, back wheel clean, fixed the front brake, it locked up, took care of that, the clutch. What else did we do? We had coffee, we had lunch with Karen, and I'm not sure what else we did.
Raise the bars.
All right, give me a call when you get home, my friend. Oh, and we learned how to stall a bike out. Have you ever ridden before?
It's my first day out.
All right, Glenn, safe home, guy. And what's the biggest, most important thing? We had a great day.
Now, several people have sent me this, including Gorgon, that they do enjoy going along on the rides, in this case with the RD 400. You go on a ride. I enjoy doing it. I loved when Stefan sent that video from Romania. I don't think I couldn't be any better than that. If you're at work, number one, or if you're home and bored, or if it's a rainy day and you can't ride, or whatever. It's just cool to be able to go along for a ride and smell the two-stroke oil and hear the sound of the bugs hitting the screen and everything. And I try to make the rides as realistic as possible. I don't try to make it, like we're doing rocket ship to the moon stuff. We're going out for a ride on public roads at maybe a mile or two over the speed limit, just a little bit. But we're certainly not out to terrorize the world, that's for sure. So, and Joe M., he appreciates the lower sound at the end of the video. Well, thank you. That is definitely, we did that, and thank you everybody who gave me feedback about that. Again, that's what's wonderful about the internet too. Jim loves question and answer. Jim, I like it too. I wish, here's a great thing. I wish people, now Dave Moss has contact patch. That's a whole different thing. That's for racing. I don't deal with racing at all. I'm done with racing. So, but other young people are, and Stefan's looking to become a pro racer or whatever, and that's fine. Glenn has his track day group in it, but the point is, I'm done with that. So my focus is on street riding and on enjoyment more than some machoism stuff. So everybody that has contributed to question and answer. My point was, I would love to have question and answer for Alan Millyard. If you've never seen Alan Millyard's videos, my God, are you in for a treat. Alan is one of the most talented, genius people in the world, and he posts wonderful videos that he makes himself. There's no crazy trick editing involved. It's his shop, and he makes his claim to fame as he takes a 3-cylinder Kawasaki, makes it a 5-cylinder or a 7-cylinder. He's taken two, I can't even remember, two big Kawasaki 900s and somehow joined them together and made a V6 or a V4 or 8, whatever. He's got so many cool things, and he's got a bike with a Viper Dodge engine that he actually, and it's not just a show bike either. And he's gone on the airport and gone, I don't know how many miles an hour, but it's fast. And he's got the coolest bike, this thing that looks like an old school Indian with 2 cylinders from a Curtiss Wright engine. Alan Milliard, go check that out. That's free advertising from Windy Videos. And the coolest thing is he feeds the birds, so I know he watches my channel too. Alan, you get a good shout out, and I do appreciate your level of intensity.
Now, speaking of intensity, this is Chuck's OSA. It's a classic. They run it in a special class for these older bikes. I repainted this for him, and we did these decals. And if you think putting those decals on was a piece of cake, here's Chuck. And in the middle of the winter, we were working on it, and he went on to really enjoy this restoration. Many times he would tell me how much he enjoyed this. Very intense.
Mark uses dish soap, but he wants to try Windex. Well, you know what, Mark? Slippery is slippery. You probably could use a lot of different things, but I guess there's a few things you don't want to use. And the reason I'm saying this, I know somebody that was having trouble getting a tire on and used WD-40. To me, that's not a great choice. But all the soap products, they eventually just go away. And a lot of times, if you don't get all of it off the rim before you inflate the tire, you'll notice when you put the next tire on, there's still globs of soap inside the tire that have dried up and caked, and you just wipe them off. So it's not a big deal. Now, Matthew liked Luciano's seat video, and he said it let him, on his seat restoration, get out all the wrinkles. Well, you know what, Matthew, that's why we make the videos, to share. And the good thing about sharing, a lot of people don't understand this concept. If I have $1, I give you $1, I don't have the dollar anymore, you have it. But if I know something, an example, when Turbo Steve knew about the Windslayers and he gave me that information, he still had the Windslayer. Oh, when you give information away, you still have it. So unless you have some ulterior motive, you're charging people or selling bananas to the Ducati owners, I don't know. But that's the nice thing about knowledge. You can give it away and still have it. So, Oscar, this I'm really looking forward to. We haven't done it yet. Remember, these videos go out about a week to 10 days after real time. Oscar I met at the market. He said he had some sound sharing to make the sound on a Canon camera better, but we haven't had a date we can get together yet. But Oscar, I'm going to thank you ahead of time. I'm open to all suggestions. That Canon camera picks up such terrible wind noise. I don't know how they can even sell it without coming up with some solution. But you know what? Well, again, I've always said this. When you look at the 5 o'clock news guy with the big fuzzy cat on the end of the mic, a lot of times in the middle of the conversation, you hear wind noise. So I don't know how to get rid of it. The Windslayer, that Turbo Steve came up with that, I think that's as good as it gets. But it doesn't work on the camera because it doesn't fit on the Canon, first of all, and I don't know how you would adapt it, or I'm not that knowledgeable. If somebody is, please send me the link. Now, another good information, general information, that I think I know the exact answer, but if I don't, somebody can correct me. I have put the quick shifter on the MT-09. The only bike I have has a quick shifter. I understand how it works on an MT-09. It shorts the ignition out or cuts the ignition for that nanosecond. Other people say it's just as good. Now, I don't do this, so I don't know. That it's just as good. You can back off the throttle real quick and you can do clutchless shifting. When I have a bike like my GS, a 40-year-old transmission, I don't want to take any chances. I do what I know is going to work for me. But anyway, I'm sure some of that stuff works. But it does, I know it does work on the MT-09 very, very, very well. And I've checked the oil. Every time I've done the oil, I've taken it out in the bright sun and looked for little metal particles that might be something in the transmission being abused. It's no different because when you do the clutch, you're just disengaging the engine for that nanosecond anyway. But there might be more to it than that. I'm sure there is. Because I've watched the installation of doing a quick shifter on the R1, and there's adjustments for how long it stays off, and I don't want to get involved in that. The only thing I want to do if I put a quick shifter on the R1, I want it to be plug and play. Anyway, I already did this on a video. I unboxed the real Wind Slayer. That was something that I know was on a previous video.
Now this was a question from JT, and I had answered it, but I wanted to show a few pictures. He wanted to know what that round thing on the front of the radar detector was. And this, of course, used to be a jivvy bag mount. I made a dedicated video that you can watch on the previous channel. And I wanted to show this so he would understand. This is called a screamer. That little round thing is a screamer. It makes a screeching sound when it detects radar. Now, we use a Valentine radar detector, of course, and that is definitely the best one that I know of, and many of my friends have them. They all agree, including Jose and Vincent. Everybody that's got one thinks it's the best. And in our area of the world, you really, if you're going to do some really aggressive writing, you better have one, or have a lot of money and plenty of PBA cards in your pocket. But anyway, the whole purpose of it is I wanted to share that. There's other ways, if you don't have a screamer, that you can, there's little lights that you can wire into your helmet to go. I never even considered that, because I saw, actually Jose was the one talked me into this. I was riding with him one day, and in the middle of nowhere, and I hear beep, 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 and we both slowed down to 40 miles an hour, and we went around a corner, and there it is. There's our ticket waiting for our award.
So before I end the video, if you have some pictures you'd like to share of your favorite bikes, your projects, and like Scott and like, well, everybody, then you can email me. The pictures have to be as an attachment I can download into the computer so I can edit them. And the email is FZR, I'll put it up on the screen, FZRGUY72618, which is my AMA number, @gmail.com. I'm looking forward to seeing some more pictures, and it's nice, we can share them. It's free, it's fun. I don't know what else to say. I don't know it gets any better than this. I enjoy it anyway, and I do enjoy making the videos. I do enjoy sharing them, and I do enjoy my interaction with the other people in the world of motorcycling. So
if it's the first time you've ever watched a video from my channel, thank you first of all for watching. And we do try to post something up each day. We do try to share the rides we go on locally, and we do try to share the work we do on motorcycles in the shop, most of which is painting, some of which is high-tech stuff, some of which is a relatively mundane maintenance like changing tires and chains and handlebars and stuff. And we do specialize in doing crash damage for parts that are basically unobtainable anymore, like the 888 panels or the Benelli work, or some of the stuff we've done for the Bimotors. And again, it's all free and it's all fun. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you share it with your friends. And of course, I hope, most of all, that we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again for watching.